Hello, it's Susan Duclos with All News Pipeline. It's June 23rd, 2017. There's a new report out on the DNC staffer that was murdered during the presidential campaign, and the new report says that either a hired killer or serial murderer killed Seth Rich. A botched robbery was not likely. Now, interestingly enough, the report it's 45-page report. It's well done. It's being done by I believe Georgetown, the Profiling Project. It's a group of volunteers who are current and former George Washington University forensic psychology graduate students and instructors. These are people that are going to go on to be profilers. And they've concluded that the murder of Seth Rich was not the result of a botched robbery, which is the theory that the law enforcement has been going with, despite the fact that he was shot 2 times in the back and that none of his items on his body was taken. His watch was still there, his wallet, nothing was taken, so there was no robbery. So there's your brief background on Seth Rich. He was a data analyst, and his murder came right as WikiLeaks was publishing the DNC emails and the Podesta emails that Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, had stated was the result of leaks, not hacks. Now let's first deal with the report. Then we're going to deal with how the media is already spinning the heck out of this. On page 2, categorized as executive summary, the profiling project notes 6 specific findings after their investigation of all publicly available information. The first, Seth's death does not appear to be a random homicide. Second, his death does not appear to be a robbery gone bad. Third, his death was more likely committed by a hired killer or serial murderer. Fourth, there may be additional video surveillance of the crime and crime scene. 5, the resolution of prosecuting the individuals responsible appears to be hindered both actively and passively. And 6, Seth's killers most likely remain free within the community. Now, that's not my interpretation of their findings. There is the report. It is embedded into the article that will be linked in the details of this video. Now, what I find more interesting is the media spin that's already coming out. One of the first publications to address this report was Newsweek. One of the most accurate things that they stated was that his death was more likely committed by a hired killer or serial murderer. But that comes a paragraph down into the article. In the first paragraph, they state clearly a serial killer is likely behind the murder. No, that's not what the report says. The report says either a hired killer or serial killer. And as I said, they put that in their article, but they only use the serial murder, the serial killer one in their headline, which we all know a lot of people just read the headlines. Now, the Newsweek article states he was 27. He was shot and killed in Washington, D.C. while walking home from a bar early in the morning on July 10, 2016. Now, notice I put this in bold. Conspiracy theorists on the right suggest the DNC staffer was behind the WikiLeaks publications of the trove of DNC emails less than 2 weeks after his murder. Now, really quick, what they're neglecting to mention is why the conspiracy theorists believe that. First off, Assange's previous assertions that it was a leak, not a hack. But then, on August 9th, an interview was put out with Julian Assange. Now, listen to what he says.
WikiLeaks never sits on material. whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
no, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one?
Okay, the guy goes on to question Assange. Are you saying he was one of your sources? And Assange says straight out, we don't comment on who our sources are. You can listen to the entire video here. So while they do not confirm who their sources are, these so-called conspiracy theorists, heck, almost anybody that has any logic listens to that. He talks about the risks. He immediately speaks about a 27-year-old, Seth Rich, that was killed, and links them to the risks that whistleblowers take. If that's not clear enough, the very same day that Assange did that, what does WikiLeaks do? They put out a tweet announcing a $20,000 reward for information leading to the conviction for the murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich. What do they have to do? Draw a map? They have a policy of not publicly stating who, confirming who their sources are. But this pretty much, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but any reasonable person looking at it is going to at least connect that he's at least suggesting that Seth Rich was a whistleblower. They take risks and they die, and his death is the reason that they're concerned about whistleblowing. I mean, any logical person is going to think that. But let's go on to more. Newsweek also provides a statement from the family spokesman. His name is Brad Bauman. The statement is put there, but that's not the important part. The important part is Newsweek doesn't address who Brad Bauman is. Brad Bauman is a professional Democratic crisis PR consultant. WikiLeaks highlighted it back when he was announced as their spokesperson, and his LinkedIn page, which is linked here, so feel free to click these links to, prove what I'm saying. His experience is listed as a partner for the Pastorium Group, managing a crisis communications and full-service public relations firm, and he's also listed as being a communications consultant providing strategic communication advice to Democratic candidates and labor unions, both listed as current. He also runs Bauman Foundation. And who sits on the board of directors of Bauman Foundation? Media Matters founder David Brock, the man who, according to The Nation, built an empire to get Hillary Clinton elected. Last note on Bauman, nobody seems to know who's paying him. The family has said that they haven't touched any of the GoFundMe money that has been donated to them so that they can have their son's death investigated independently. There's a heavy.com link in here. 5 facts you need to know about Brad Bauman. Please click it. Now, let's see. What else do we have here? Yes, okay. Newsweek also doesn't acknowledge that it's not just conspiracy theorists on the right, as they put it, that believe Rich was murdered because he was a WikiLeaks source. Seth's own cousin stated publicly in a tweet reply to Sean Hannity, he said, "First thing I said to my dad when my dad told me was he knew something and he was murdered. The rest of the family thought I was nuts. See last name." Now that tweet was later deleted, and after another family member named Andy Rich said, "This is not the place and not the topic for you to comment on. Love you, but filter, bro." So the day after the tweet was made, after that Andy Rich comment, Jonathan Rich deleted his tweet, but it was archived, and again, there is a link to the archive so you can see that it was said. So, Newsweek claims that oh yeah, another spin from Newsweek. They claim that in regards to this report, as for the conspiracy theories, the profiling project says those are unfounded given that Rich did not die immediately at the scene. Then they quote a portion of what the report says. A professional killer whose sole job would have been to terminate Seth did not accomplish the mission prior to escaping. Now, while the report does offer that direct quote, they never mention unfounded. They say that that conspiracy theory is not likely unless a toxin was introduced into Seth. That is on page 28, 29, 30, and 31, addressing 4 separate conspiracy theories, and each one says the same thing. It's not likely unless a toxin was introduced to Seth, and positive toxicology reports would be needed to support the theory. The reason that they cannot support the theory, no toxicological reports have been released to date. Neither has the autopsy results. In fact, there are multiple FOIA requests, that means Freedom of Information Act requests, to get those reports released. One from the man who funded this group report, Jack Bauman, who has also offered a $105,000 reward for information leading to the solving of the Seth Rich murder. He filed the Freedom of Information Act. And in late May, the Profiling Project filed an open records complaint, and that is linked here also, against D.C.'s mayor and attorney general, which states the case is now clearly a cold case. As such, the release of the desired information would not harm MPD's efforts in any way, as there is no continuing effort. They're not the only ones trying to get information. On June 1st, 2017, ABC News 7 investigative reporter Scott Taylor also provided a Seth Rich update, which states, here's the denial of my request for video of police officers' body cams at crime scene and hospital plus surveillance video. And he goes ahead and shows the denial, which we have screenshots up. So law enforcement, the mayor, whoever, they're stonewalling. They're stonewalling. They will not release the information needed to continue investigating this case. Why? Now, in response to a question from somebody about whether similar items have been released before, ABC's Taylor said, yes, body cams in homicides have been released in the past. So come on over to the link in the description box. Click all the links. You can see for yourself everything that we're saying. In fact, here's the, let's get down to page 28, first 26. Here we go. Okay. Page 26 is where, 25 and 26 is where they say that a random robbery gone bad, which is what the police are saying is not likely. No caveats there, as they do with the other conspiracy theorists, where it says not likely unless a toxin was introduced, and they deal with that on the subsequent pages also. These are things that the mainstream media are not addressing. In fact, the Newsweek report specifically did not say unless a toxin was introduced into Seth, which could support that specific theory. And they also said that they're saying that these conspiracy theories are unfounded, and that's not what they're saying. They're saying not likely unless a toxin was introduced. There's a lot of open questions. They need answers. The law enforcement, DC, the mayor, they need to stop stonewalling. People just want answers. I will be more than happy to report that all of these conspiracy theories have been debunked if they will provide the evidence showing so. Why will the mainstream media not be willing to even accurately describe the report or give all the information to their readers of why people believe Seth Rich was murdered? These are questions that need to be asked, questions that must be answered, kudos to that ABC Taylor, that the local affiliate. National ones don't want to touch us with a 10-foot pole, but kudos to him for trying to follow up on this. At least there are some honest investigative reporters out there. Have a good day, folks.